I hope that you're having a beautiful holiday season and that your year 2024 is a wonderful one for you. I just wanted to take a quick moment and stop in and say thank you so much for your support this year. I honestly can't thank you enough every time I see a comment on a video, you sharing it with someone. It means so much to me. And I really wanted to make sure that you knew that. I don't really do these types of videos, but I felt like it was necessary for me to come and just give you a big thank you. I truly, truly appreciate you. I also just wanted to give you a little bit of maybe an update on what to expect for 2024 here on the channel. We've experimented with some new videos just to kind of see if you guys would enjoy them. I really had a lot of fun filming videos like what I eat in a day or my life journey in like being plant-based, and it looked like you guys really enjoyed it. We got a lot of really good feedback from them. So I've started filming more of that type of content. I've also started branching out a little bit and sharing recipes with you that are not just Mexican recipes in a way that is really inspirational to me. They're a little bit more ASMR-ish, and many of you really enjoyed them too. So I'm gonna continue doing those things for you. But the big news for 2024 is that we are working on a cookbook. As of today, there's only 7 more recipes that I have to take photographs for. I say me, but that's not me. Me and my team are taking photographs of them, and they are coming out extremely beautiful. It's like everything I thought that it could be, it is, and I'm really happy with how it's going and excited to share them with you guys. I think it's something that will benefit a lot of you, and I'm just excited. So I hope that you are subscribed to my newsletter. I honestly don't spam. I don't really actually send out a newsletter, but I do have a newsletter that I will be sending out with details of the book once it starts getting closer to that. So if you're not subscribed to that and you want to make sure that you stay informed about the cookbook, I will leave a link in the description for that. The last part that I wanted to do in this video, if you want to stick around for it, is a little bit of a Q&A. I haven't done Q&As on YouTube since years ago, like the very beginning, and most of those videos are not even on here. So I realize a lot of you are pretty new to my channel and you may not know a lot about me. So I figured I'd stop in and just be myself a little bit here. Not that I'm not on my videos, but a little bit unscripted. I'm just gonna be answering questions that some of you sent here on YouTube and on Instagram. And hopefully that gets you to know me a little bit better, and we can, I don't know, maybe put comments down and I'll start like noticing you and we can build a better relationship. You'd be surprised, but there's a lot of people that have commented over the years that like I've basically become friends with. Like, I know you guys. A quick reminder about that. I really know my members. If you don't know, on this channel, we do have memberships, and that's our little community where we basically just talk to each other. And I hope that you want to become a member on here. I share things on there that I don't share anywhere. Like, I don't share them on Instagram. I don't share them on any other social media. There's vlogs on there. There's just little things about my life that are not related to food. So if you want to know more about those things and you want to support the channel, there's 2 types of memberships. You can just click join. Pretty much underneath every video, there's a little bit clickable link to that. And that's where we like really become a family. So I love and appreciate you guys so much, but especially if you start leaving comments, like, we can become friends. So don't be shy, leave a comment, because I do check those and I do respond to those a lot. So I'm gonna get started on the questions. So the number 1 asked question was, who inspired you to pursue cooking, or who inspired you to cook in general or as a career? And I'm not gonna be naming the person who sent in the comment because I never really asked if they wanted to be named, so I'm just gonna keep everybody anonymous just to be safe on this, okay? But that question came up a lot, and honestly, it was my mom. And I feel like I should be saying this in Spanish because she doesn't speak English, so she won't understand any of this. But it was my mom that inspired me to cook. She is this person in my life that since like my very first memories as a child, they were with my mom cooking. If you don't know this, I grew up in Mexico in the middle of nowhere in a village. We cooked with like wood fire stoves, and my mom was in that kitchen a lot. And I just remember being with her in the kitchens all the time with her and my aunts and my grandmas. And she just had this natural passion for food and putting ingredients together that has become like so embedded in my mind that it really made me want to learn like how to put ingredients together. To me, watching her as a little kid, it felt like she was an alchemist and she was just like throwing things together and magic would happen. And uh, like I just have some of the most beautiful memories for that. So my mom really inspired me. She is the one that brought so much knowledge to me that now as an adult I realize was ancient knowledge of food in Mexico. I didn't know this as a kid. It was just food to me. But now I realize what a beautiful gift she gave me. And she had a really good balance of knowing these recipes that had just been passed down for generations, but also dabbling into experimenting with new recipes. Like she would watch cooking shows, and I remember sitting there watching watching them with her as a kid. And I just remember she would get excited about trying things. She would look at magazines for recipes all the time. And I think just seeing her have this passion for food stayed with me forever. And I loved it as a kid. I just didn't really know it in my teens. I kind of like lost all that. And then in my 20s, it just came up all over again when I had to start cooking for myself. But yeah, that inspiration was really my mom. And she never pushed me to do it. If anything, she kind of always kicked me out of her kitchen because, you know, moms, I don't know if it's every mom, but I feel like a lot of moms kind of are like, I want to do it this way. So she'd be like, oh, I'm just going to finish it, you know? But yeah, it was her. And I don't get to cook with her as much as I wish I did. Um, but in general, I still call her for questions all the time because she has a lot of knowledge on recipes that we, especially in Mexico, we know of, but they're kind of being lost a lot. So I rely on her a lot. And this is one of the main reasons why I started a YouTube channel, because I felt like it was necessary for me to document the things that I knew in ways that maybe the new wave of Mexican food has lost. Like the healthiness of it, the plant-based naturalness of it. And I'm going on a rant, but it kind of segues into the next question, which is what can we expect from your cookbook? I am not going to be going into details yet because I'm not ready for that. I want to make a whole video where I can talk freely about the book, but all I can tell you is that it's plant-based and it's beautiful, beautiful recipes that are naturally plant-based, like a celebration of food from the earth. And that's what I can tell you. And I'm excited about it, and I hope you love it. Will it be physical or digital? Both. So I love and appreciate that we live in an age where we can share a lot of information in digital form, but I feel like the photography for it is coming out so incredibly beautiful that it deserves a spot on your coffee table. And even if you never cook a recipe from it, I bet you it can still be something that can be like in the center of your living room or in your kitchen counter, and it'll just look really beautiful. So I think it deserves to also be printed. And yeah, so that's about the cookbook. The next question, I have a good amount from you guys. Goals for 2024. You know, I don't really set goals for 2024. I like to set just like an overall theme, like I like to think of like a word or something that will inspire me for the year, but I don't like to set goals because it's sort of unnatural to me to set goals in winter. I never feel inspired. I don't. I feel like I want to cocoon inside a cave with a cup, like a warm cup of coffee or tea, and like sleep all winter. So it just doesn't come natural to me and never has. And it's probably because nature is telling me to just cocoon inside. So I don't like to set goals that way. I set goals whenever I'm inspired, but I don't do it like New Year's. Like, I don't know, it doesn't work for me. But I do set a tone. Last year, my tone for the year was joy. And honestly, I want to incorporate that into 2024 again. Um, the year before that, it was like unconditional love. I've had peace be my word of inspiration, but I want joy. Like, there's just so much going on in the world that I want to make sure that I am bringing joy in wherever little piece that I can, even if I'm busy. Like, I want that. And I don't know if I fully did it enough. I think I was reminded a lot of it in 2023, but I was really busy, and I want to bring that over to 2024. Joy. That is my word. So no goal, but inspirational word, joy. The next question is, it was related to like, why do how I got into cooking, but it was also the question of why do I love it so much? There's so many reasons for it, but I think like when I look back, I'm a person that like truly believes in the psychological part of like, as an adult, you do things because of like your upbringing, right? And I really think that stands true for me in a lot of things. And cooking is no exception. To me, cooking as a child, again, was like, it felt like it was alchemy in the kitchen, just watching my mom and these women cook these beautiful meals, and very communal. So to me, it felt like it was what brought our community together. It was what brought family together. I grew up in families, especially in Mexico, where there was a lot of us that would gather. Even if we didn't all live in the same house, we would gather like at both of my grandma's house all the time, and we would sit in these big tables all together at the same time and enjoy a meal. We would talk to each other. We would like just share life with each other. Whether you were old or extremely young, we all sat together and just had community. Like, we literally broke bread together. And those memories have been so impactful in my life that to me, food is not just something you do because it's pleasurable. It's not something that I do just because it brings nutrition to my body, which I truly believe it does. It sustains life, but it's a part of like building as humans together. Um, After we moved from Mexico coming to the US, my parents, I am forever thankful for them that they continue to have like daily dinners together. Maybe we all went out to school and work, but when we came home, we had dinners together. We sat there, we talked. We were kind of forced to look at each other's faces. And not that I didn't want to be there, but I'm saying like it's something that like when you don't really think about it, but there was a lot of, especially as like teens, being the first sort of generation to grow up in the US, there was a lot of things that like I felt disconnected from my parents in that sense. Like, oh, like you don't, as a teen, you're like, you don't understand me. You don't understand me because you grew up in Mexico kind of thing, even though I did too in a way. But now that I know, all of that like brought us closer, and I felt safe, I felt connected. And I feel like if that wouldn't have, if our like daily meals wouldn't have been there, I feel like it would have actually brought us even more separated. So I am forever thankful for what food does to people. And even now as an adult, it's something that we do at home. we like attempt as much as we can to have meals together, to sit there and talk and be away from all of the distractions of the world. So to say all of that, it's basically because to me, food is not just something that's delicious. It's not something that just brings life to your body, but it's something that brings humans together. So I'm passionate in sharing meals that are all of those things into one. And then personally, to me, cooking is like one of the most meditative practices. It's where I feel, again, like a magician, just like an alchemist. So there's just so much that food represents in my daily life. It's a connection to my ancestors in ways that I never thought was possible. So it's such a like big part of who I am, who memories are to me, who people are and have been and will be, like past, present, future to me, that it's so beautiful. And yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's a lot of things into one that just like represents so much in my life. I hope that made sense. Another question. This one's a good one. What's one dish you can eat every day and still enjoy it every time? I have a lot of them, but you know, as the years go by, I realize that it's a simple bowl of beans, like my beans, the way I cook them, the way I have a recipe for it. I'll leave it down below if you haven't seen that video. But it's a bowl of bean and fresh, like handmade tortillas. That is one dish that like I don't think I could get tired of. I think it's so, when done right, when done from scratch, it's just, it's it's like comfort. It's ah, I don't know, it's like perfect. It's simple, it's perfect, it's delicious, and it'll fill you up. It's a complete protein. I don't know if you know that, but beans on a corn tortilla is a complete protein. So it's, I don't know. It's simple. It probably doesn't make like sense. I think sometimes people expect me to say this like grand dish, but it isn't. It's simplicity at its best, I think. Um, Another one about a dish. What dish would you prepare for someone who wasn't into Mexican food? Your gateway Mexican dish. And extra points if it's even good for someone who thinks black pepper is hot. That's funny. Because I think kids usually think that black pepper is hot, which is funny. Like I know my daughter used to think that black pepper was hot. So I get that. And I would say it's actually related to the one I just said. And I would be a really well-made bean taco with avocado. And that sounds ridiculous, but trust me on this. When people have my beans, they're always like, "Oh my gosh, like I haven't had beans like that ever." I have yet, and you can quote me on this, I have yet to find a restaurant in the US that serves beans the way I make them, because I haven't. And to me, again, it represents so much of like what my ancestors were eating, like beans on a tortilla, and then with avocado. If you didn't grow up with a Mexican family, you probably don't understand like how simple like avocado on a bean taco is, but it's so good. So that would be the dish that I would introduce to someone if they didn't know Mexican food and it wasn't spicy. So there you go. Which is so weird. I know you'd expect something crazy, but I promise you that is it. The next question is, what was the first vegan meal you cooked? And I guess this is two questions. And do you have a recipe for vegan chilaquiles? Happy New Year. Oh, you guys are so kind. So question number one, what was the first vegan meal? I mean, that's really hard to say because if you don't know this, I mean, I've talked about this a little bit, I feel like in several videos, but I grew up eating a lot of plant-based foods, and it's because it's estimated that like 70% of the diet of like the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Olmecs was actually a plant-based diet. And there are multiple reasons for why that was, right? Obviously, the elites were eating a lot of like animals, but the common person was eating about 70% plant-based diet. And especially in like my part of Mexico, a lot of the foods that we ate growing up were things that just grew on the land. It was like foraged food. So we ate plant-based. Always, my mom cooked pretty much plant-based food all the time. We did have dairy because at that time she had like she had 4 cows that she would sell milk for, or milk from, I should say. But I mean, if I can remember back to like being a kid, the first thing my mom let me cook was beans. There's a theme here. There's clearly a bean theme. But I remember she taught me how to properly make beans. And I promise you, it was the best. To me as a kid, I'm like, I am a master. I made these amazing beans. It was so good. So I would say it's that. It was a dish. It was like refried beans, Mexican style refried beans that my mom let me cook. I must have been like 4 years old. Yeah, 4 or 5 at the most, but I'm pretty sure I was 4 years old. And that was plant-based. But I ate plant-based, I cooked plant-based pretty much all the time just because that was sort of the food that we had all the time. I did eat meat as a kid until I was in my 20s. I can't remember exactly if I was 20 or 21, one of the two. I was 19, I think. I don't remember, guys, but it was around there. I was in college. But I've always cooked plant-based, pretty much. And do I have a recipe for vegan chilaquiles? So I do. There's 2 ways that you can make this. So you can make, like, if you know how to make chilaquiles, I don't have a video for chilaquiles on the channel, which maybe I should. I don't cook chilaquiles that much just because they are fried. And so I try to stay away from fried foods as much as possible. But if you know how to make chilaquiles, you would make your chilaquiles a normal way. And instead of adding an egg, you could do one of 2 things. I've done it where in the summertime, there's these beautiful yellow tomatoes that are, they're like the Campari tomatoes size, they're like about like a golf ball basically. And they're really beautiful, they're yellow. And what I like to do is you like roast them on a broiler. And then when you're about to eat them, you would put it on top of your chilaquiles. And then when you cut it, because they're so juicy, they pretty much just like burst open almost the way that an egg would, like an egg yolk. And it's really delicious. And it's not going to taste eggy, but what you could do is add a little bit of like black salt, which is the salt that has the sulfur in it. And so it would taste a little bit eggy. So that's one way that you could do it. Another way that you could do it, I do have a recipe on the channel for huevos a la mexicana, which is like the Mexican scrambled eggs. You could also just add that, which is made with tofu. So it's like a tofu scramble Mexican style. I'll leave the recipe down below as well. So you could add that on top of your chilaquiles too. So I've never made a video on it. Maybe I could make one coming up. That's actually a good idea. But that's the 2 ways that I would do it, depending on which way you like your eggs. Like some people like their eggs on chilaquiles to be scrambled, and some people like it to be like yolky. So if I was going the yolky way, I would do that tomato. They are a little difficult to find, typically only in the summertime, but they're delicious and a really good substitute for that experience of like the yolk opening. My mouth is watering, literally. The next question is, how did you get from there to here, meaning your upbringing in Mexico to living in the United States? So long story short, my dad was working in the US since the 70s. He would come and work for a period of time and then go back to Mexico. When I was little, I didn't really like live 100% with my dad because he was working in the US a lot. So I would see him for periods of time. Thankfully, around 1986, he was able to apply for the US amnesty program that they had, where if you could prove that you had worked, like, I don't remember all the rules, but I know one of them was if you worked in the fields, you could apply for your residency in the US. He was very lucky that he was able to apply and got accepted. He became a legal resident. And then several years later, he applied for my mom, my sister, and I at that time. And we were able to get a residency. I am forever grateful for that, because I know coming to this country for a lot of people is not easy, and they have some crazy stories sometimes to how they got here. And thankfully, I came very easily because of that program as a resident. I am forever thankful for my parents bringing me here, because I have beautiful memories of growing up in Mexico, you know, running around like a wild child in the middle of nowhere. But life there just didn't have a lot of future. We didn't even have indoor plumbing. We didn't have, like, when I was a baby, we didn't even have electricity. We didn't have water until, oh my, I must have been like 5 years old. I think that's when my dad had like clean water for us. Um, Life, you know, it was really fun, and I am very grateful for all the memories. Like, I have beautiful memories from it, but there really wasn't much of a future. I went to a school of like 10 children from like kindergarten to like 6th grade. And sometimes we had more, sometimes we had less. A lot of the children had to work in the fields. They didn't really get an education. So my dad's purpose of bringing us here was so that we could have a better life. Like, the American dream of coming here to have a better life. And I'm just grateful that he was able to do it in a way that was easy for us to come. Like, by the time that we moved here, my dad, you know, had established his like small business. He worked in construction at that time. I mean, by small, I mean, it was like him and somebody else. Like, you know, he was genuinely living that American life. He had a home for us. Like, I remember it was a small home. Like, I had to share a room with my sister. Like, but it was a safe home with clean water, with electricity that didn't go out when storms happen, you know, with clean water, and like I could flush a toilet. Like, I know that those are like the most basic things to a lot of people, but like to us, those were luxuries. And again, I didn't like, I don't know, I wasn't starving in Mexico. Like, we had food all the time. My mom loved to cook, and I have beautiful memories from it. I had a great community. Like, community is a big thing in Mexico, and I miss that. But I am grateful for him being able to bring us to the US. Um, the next part of that question was like, how did I get into like my cooking journey, which I've sort of answered that already. Just, I guess, to go back a little bit, like, I always loved cooking. Um, as I shared earlier, like, that was something that was just such a big part for me. I pretty much forgot all about it in my like, you know, like, I think like from the time that I came to the US up until I was living alone and had to cook for myself, I kind of forgot my passion for cooking. Like, I genuinely did. But I'm grateful for that, because I feel like by the time I was living on my own and I had to cook for myself, then it gave me this like bigger sense of like dabbling back into something that I already knew but kind of had just put in the back burner. And I remember my job at that time, I was working in higher education, and I liked what I did, but all I could think about every day at work all the time was I wanted to go home and cook. Like, I would spend time looking at like recipes. I would go home and watch nothing but cooking videos. Like, I was just like, quickly realized like this is what I love to do. I have loved a lot of different things in my life. Like, dance was a big part of my teen years, but this was something that like I just wanted to learn more about. I had this passion for it, and I didn't really see it as a career at that time. But it was when I went to MasterChef that I fully knew, like, okay, like one way or another, like, I'm going to be in this, and I feel like I have a purpose in sharing these recipes that are from my ancestors and that I love, and I also feel like I have a purpose in sharing how to just cook good vegetables. you know, I think that that's something that we could all benefit from, whether you're vegan or not. Like, just having good vegetables in your diet will benefit anybody, and I feel like that's just been part of my calling. So from little Adriana up until now, it has always been a constant in my life. The last question is if I have a release date for the cookbook, and I don't, but that's why I'm saying, like, subscribe to the email list so that you will get notices from me. I don't spam anyone. I actually don't send out newsletters. I don't really do any of that. But I do want to send some like updates on the book, and then the release date, and then obviously like the date that the book comes out. I will be sending it all out through the email list. So make sure that you subscribe to that so that you don't miss the date for that. It is going to be released in 2024. My goal is early 2024, but I don't have a precise date, but stay tuned because it is coming. So thank you so much to everyone who asked these questions. I hope that that gets you to know me a little bit more. I haven't done one of these, like I said, in years. And if you've enjoyed it, I will make sure to add one of these to every season in between all the recipes and cooking videos. I find them fun, but I know these long videos are not for everyone. But if you like them, make sure to let me know down in the comments that you want more of these so I can make sure to incorporate it to the channel. And again, I hope that you have a beautiful 2024, and I am very grateful for you. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next year.